Congratulations, you're the new winner of the award for hardest person to pick recommendations for. And your Letterboxd says diaries and films watched are incomplete, so I'm worried all the movies I'm going to recommend are ones you've already seen and just didn't have marked as watched. Your four favorites are Two-Lane Blacktop, The Traveling Players, All That Heaven Allows, and Distant Voices Still Lives. The Passenger has that drifting existential road movie vibe like Two-Lane Blacktop. There's a sense of political disillusionment like in The Traveling Players, and it was released the same year. At times, the film feels like a bit of a melodrama like All That Heaven Allows. And like Distant Voices Still Lives, there's this feeling of being haunted by the past. This might seem like a strange comparison, but the first film that came to mind when I was watching Two-Lane Blacktop was The Swimmer, because Two-Lane Blacktop starts off feeling like a simple film about people racing cars, but as it goes along, it feels like more of a journey that evolves into something much deeper and more existential. And that's how I felt about The Swimmer. It starts off as a simple film about a guy trying to swim through all the pools in his neighborhood, and even though it doesn't involve cars, it still feels like a journey. And as it goes along, it evolves into something much more profound and existential. And like The Traveling Players, it feels like history is gradually revealed to the viewer, except in this film it's on a much smaller scale because it's one man's personal history. Like All That Heaven Allows, it has this atmosphere of suburban melodrama, and like Distant Voices Still Lives, it explores memory and family trauma. As I was moving ahead, occasionally I saw brief glimpses of beauty feel sprawling yet patient like The Traveling Players, where it has a long running time but isn't afraid to linger in the quiet moments. And I also think you'd like this one since you like Distant Voices Still Lives, because that movie is autobiographical and almost feels like watching home movies of a family, and this film is essentially like watching the director's home movies. And like Two-Lane Blacktop, it feels like the type of film where people can project their own meaning onto it. Journey to Italy feels loose in its storytelling and has that feeling of watching characters go on a journey like in Two-Lane Blacktop. Like The Traveling Players, it captures the history of the country it takes place in and examines personal dramas against that historical backdrop. Like All That Heaven Allows, it's an exploration of a romantic relationship, and like Distant Voices Still Lives, it feels as though the characters are reflecting on memories. The Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant has a feeling of alienation like Two-Lane Blacktop, a theatricality like The Traveling Players, a sense of melodrama like All That Heaven Allows, and gorgeous cinematography where every frame feels like a painting like Distant Voices Still Lives. The Cranes Are Flying takes place during World War II like The Traveling Players, but it also involves romance and social scrutiny like All That Heaven Allows, and it explores family trauma like Distant Voices Still Lives. If you love the melodrama of All That Heaven Allows and a long film like The Traveling Players, I think you'd love Happy Hour, which also has that existential drifting feeling like Two-Lane Blacktop and explores familial conflicts like Distant Voices Still Lives. Until the End of the World is a road movie like Two-Lane Blacktop. It's a sprawling epic that takes its time to unfold like The Traveling Players. And like Distant Voices Still Lives, memory and music play a pretty big role in this film. Taxi mostly takes place inside of a vehicle like Two-Lane Blacktop, but it also has some political context like The Traveling Players. And this film is a work of docu-fiction with the director playing a character in the film, which is sort of comparable to the autobiographical aspects of Distant Voices Still Lives. Cold Water takes place in the early 70s like Two-Lane Blacktop and has that feeling of wandering or being constantly on the move. Like All That Heaven Allows, it involves romance and dealing with social expectations. And like Distant Voices Still Lives, it's a semi-autobiographical coming-of-age film. The Mother and the Whore has that drifting existential vibe like Two-Lane Blacktop. Like The Traveling Players, it's nearly 4 hours long, with the political climate at the time shaping the characters' lives even when it isn't explicitly mentioned. And like All That Heaven Allows, it explores romantic relationships and how they can be affected by external pressures and social expectations. Duel, like Two-Lane Blacktop, is a film from 1971 that involves someone driving across California who's eventually challenged by another driver. Except this one isn't a race, it's more of a deadly game of cat and mouse. American Honey has that drifting road movie sort of vibe like Two-Lane Blacktop, and like Distant Voices Still Lives, it's a coming-of-age film about working-class people and involves dysfunctional families. Before I watched The Traveling Players, I learned that it's technically part of the trilogy of history, and you didn't have the other two films in that trilogy marked as watched. So if you haven't already seen Days of 36 and The Hunters, I think they're worth checking out since you're a fan of The Traveling Players. Speaking of Days of 36, the director described that one as the opposite of Z, and even though they take different approaches, I still think you'd appreciate Z since you're a fan of The Traveling Players, because this film also explores explores Greek history and political turmoil. Since The Traveling Players delves into Greek mythology with Orestes and Electra, I want to recommend Electra, my love. I think you'd like Andrei Rublev since you're a fan of The Traveling Players, because it also explores art, history, and political turmoil with a similar use of long takes and deliberate pacing. No one does melodrama quite like Douglas Sirk, and you already saw most of his films. And you already saw the films that were inspired by All That Heaven Allows, such as Far From Heaven, Polyester, and Ali, Fear Eats the Soul. But a movie that I think has a similar melodramatic vibe that even came out a year after All That Heaven Allows is Bigger Than Life. The combination of All That Heaven Allows and Distant Voices, Still Lives makes me think you'd appreciate Autumn Sonata for its emotional exploration of family and relationships. Rocco and His Brothers is an epic like The Traveling Players and a melodrama like All That Heaven Allows that's about family like Distant Voices, Still Lives.